Hey everyone, it's Justin Worthy with the Top Calgary Real Estate Team and New Builds Calgary at Remax House of Real Estate. Today I'm super excited to introduce Nicholas, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, Ancerl, the principal of the award-winning Ancerl Studio. He's a visionary in modern design and architecture, known for creating breathtaking functional spaces that push the boundaries of contemporary living. So stay tuned as we dive into his creative process and the future of design. So thank you, Nicholas, so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Look forward to gaining some insight from you.
Well, thank you. And just those kind words made it all worth it.
Love it. Love it. So first question for you, Nicholas, I guess what inspired you to start Ancerl Studio, and how has your journey in design evolved since you first started?
Well, I worked for about 10 years for different studios, architecture and design in the city before I worked on my own. And it was around the time when I was 30 years old. Something just clicked to me that I just couldn't work for anybody anymore. So call it fate or whatever it was. And it was a tough road, but it was right around the time, about 15 years ago. So it was right around the time when we were supposed to be going into this green building. Everything was going to go green. And, a little bit right before that started, everybody started creating LEED for buildings, came out, that became sustainability became a thing for everything. And I decided, I'm going to try my hand at doing houses. I'm going to see, I didn't have, even though I worked for companies for close to a decade, I didn't have that much experience on my own. There's a difference between doing it on your own and working at a desk for a studio. And on top of that, just being the age I was and that, I didn't have that much confidence. I didn't know how, if I was good enough or not, or this and that. So I just thought I'm going to have fun with it. And I looked at it and I thought, if I can do it like everybody else does it, the cookie cutter, and make $100K on a house, or I can do it my way and make $50K on the house, I'm doing it my way. Just to have my own creative thumb on the expression. And the original way that we broke into it, that we did it, the first project we did was in Parkview Hills, and it was on a ravine, and we got a centerfold in Sustainable Builder magazine for that house afterwards, because everything about it was supposed to be sustainable, hence where we're this supposed green boom before. So in that house, we had a great water system, we had a steel roof, we paid for FSC lumber and things like that. A lot of that stuff now, though, it's just basic. So the FSC lumber, you go to Home Depot, that's what you get, right? So anyways, that's how I got started. And that was where we ended up with our first project.
Very, very cool. That's awesome. And obviously, you're in the East Coast, we're in the West Coast. Do you find that the style of housing in the East Coast versus the West Coast is substantially different when it comes to, I guess sustainability is fairly similar, but when it comes to the actual design of the houses?
Well, transparency, apologies to your viewers. I'm not too familiar with Calgary real estate, how it is, but as I actually mentioned to you just before we jumped on here, I am quite familiar with Vancouver. And yes, for the most part, general housing building, you can see some of the building materials, and the city's, the building code of Vancouver is a little bit different than what it is here in the East Coast for insulation values and basically technology for the homes, how they have to be built. So I don't know how it is in Calgary, but I do see from Toronto to Vancouver that difference a little bit. But I mean, when you have a large, other than how they're building the walls, which isn't necessarily that different, but I mean, there is a little bit of differentiation of it. I mean, other than really that, once you're getting into the luxury homes, the big homes, people who are spending a good amount of money because they appreciate good design, there's not really much of a difference. And you could say that about anywhere, really. You can look down to LA, even in the Hollywood Hills, or in Sydney, Australia, and the mountain, the hills, they're off the ocean. Modern design, when you have the money to spend in the homes, the design is the design, you can put in the good materials, and there's not really much of a difference in that stuff. except maybe the budget, in Toronto, you don't get many of these 40 million LA Hill houses at the budgets. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Absolutely. That's interesting. It's cool how it's fairly similar, kind of same but different, if you will. And I understand that your projects often emphasize texture and space. How do you approach the balance between aesthetics and functionality in your overall design?
yeah, well, it all comes, a lot of it comes from learning, like experience. A lot of it, if you look at my sorority, the twin houses we did, I lived in 118 for 2 years. That was the first time I lived in one of my houses. And you really learn in that house how to place, like how the functionality of things really can work. So I wasn't that bad at it, I realized, but there was a few things like, where you're placing plugs, for example. Now I'm an expert plug layer. So, after living there, it's like everything thought out perfect for every scenario. Well, maybe I'm being a little arrogant saying that, but, for most scenarios, we're thought out, we actually put that together. Further to that, I guess, when we're doing the design of the house, I kind of just let it come intuitively, whether it comes from me, like working through, what we're going to do, or my staff will sometimes work with me, but it's like we decide on the concept for it. And when we do client house, the client will usually, we ask them for a mood board, so we quickly see the style that they like and we'll go that direction. But, we usually pick the concept we want, and then we look at the space and we look at that we have available to work with us. In Toronto, you have a lot of heritage neighborhoods where you got about a 12-foot wall-to-wall house, basically, to work with. So we basically look at what's available and how what are we looking at? How do we bring light in? And each house seems to kind of organically come together. So when we're talking about textures and things like that, one of the things I like to work with design is a lot of, I like to have, I like to use authentic materials, right? I'd rather use the real marble counter than the fake marble, right? Now, like the porcelain, I just don't like the look. You look at it and it's like, it's not my first choice to do. Well, this is actually a good example to break it down for. Then people will say, well, it's not durable, I'm going to stain it. Well, you can go, and there's a couple of ways you can deal with that for marble, for example. So there's a lot of the big stone places will bring in a line called Ancerl. It's from somebody in Italy, who actually, they treat the stone over there and they send it over to you. They guarantee no etching, no staining, and so on and so forth. So you can get your beautiful Calcutta or statuary or whatever, and it's not going to ring or anything like that. The other one you can do is there's something called tough skin that goes, it's like a little film that goes on stone that a lot of people are doing. It's not my favorite because if you cut on it, you can't see it, or if you have a little kid that kind of plays with over time, or, it can fold, but you can always get it reapplicated too. So there are ways to go with it. So I'm always just a fan of using the natural stuff. I think that's character, and doing what we can do in this materials rather than picking the fake stuff. And I think that's seen through by, people in this industry, or people who are going to be potential clients or buyers or things like that who have their eyes on us. They actually see how the different, just subconsciously even sometimes, how a space works, and, just the feeling when you see it. So that's kind of where we go with it. So I feel like the authenticity of the materials, the real textures, the real stones, the real woods, all that stuff, just bring it all together, and also not doing too much, trying to keep it simple.
Cool. I love that, man. And it's really cool how, like, you can differentiate yourself by simple little things like maybe exposed brick, or texture in even the quality of the carpet that you choose, or a feature wall. Like it's not it doesn't necessarily have to be costly, but it's something that can help you really differentiate from your competition, especially for the spec builders out there, right?
Yeah, well, for the spec builders out there, one thing I always say, and we get calls, we have a few clientele that are spec builders as well. We work with them to put, the product on market. We just actually released one on Lippincott. It's on our It's the recent one that we showcased, and beautiful traditional home, transitional. Sold, in this market, sold for a really good price, sold with the furniture. And it's like the people who come in, it gives a different vibe when they're coming in. And the one thing I always say to the builders is they come in, I go, what are we going to do about furniture? Now, I don't need to, like if you ever watch, for example, $1 million listings, LA, for example, you see them always talking about, oh, we got to style or furnish this place, we got to furnish this place. I'm a big believer in the furnishing, especially on the product that, to showcase our vision. I don't believe that when you come in an empty shell, like a lot of people can't visualize. They have other strengths, some can, but not everybody can. So it's not to knock them. Like I said, everybody has their own talent. But when you come in, if there's what I say to the builders is if you have a budget and you just can't stretch on the budget and it's like, this is it. I would rather than buy, let's go back to the stone example, rather than buy a $20,000 worth of Calcutta marble in the kitchen, I would rather find a beautiful statuario, or statuetta, something that will cost $8,000. And we take that $12,000 and put it towards the sofa. The argument would be, the sofa doesn't come with the house. It's going to come, it might, but it's not only that. When people come in, when you do the vision throughout, the person is never going to be able to tell if it's a Calcutta or a statuaria. It's going to be a beautiful stone that works with the space. But that sofa with the carpet and the little vignette, the little books on the table is what, when the person comes in, where they're getting the vibe of could they live there? Is this their kind of home? So I think that staging, and not just staging, but really furnishing, doing it well, I think that's a really important thing. And, like I said, look how they do it even in $1 million listings on the $30, $40 million houses out in the Hollywood Hills. They do it there. And I would actually recommend even, people who are going to be doing a $1.5 million home or $1 million home to sell. You can jazz it up just with that little bit of furniture and styling, and the sellability of it, I believe, if done right, always will take it from there to there.
Yeah, 100%. That's so cool. I love that we share a similar sentiment when it comes to that, because it's in the little things that can make a huge, huge, huge difference to the end consumer. So that's amazing. The next question I have for you is, can you share the creative process behind one of your most recent projects, such as maybe the Waxwing residence?
Oh, the Waxwing residence, yeah. Waxwing was a fun project. So Waxwing was actually, that was designed for, at the time, one of my development partners. And, we had a relationship, and he had gone through, anyways, doesn't matter. He had gone through personal. It was now a new family look, so to say, at that point for him and his daughters. And I said to him, he wanted to be close to where the office was. And we found this place on Waxwing backing onto a ravine, 70-some feet wide, while he was looking for 50 feet. And we didn't even notice the pocket existed. The fact that we found a ravine there and so on and so forth, it was in the height of the market. It was the market was just going crazy at that time. And we had bought it conditional, and the day it was going firm, he was calling me up going, I feel like I'm overpaying. It's $100,000, the comps say $100,000 less. And my answer to him was, you've been looking. In a year, you're still going to be looking, and you're going to be wishing you bought this, because this is going to be worth $300,000 more. And you're not going to get a ravine and this and that. And but yeah, I think you're right. So he firmed up on it. I kid you not, the neighbor's house, which is 10 feet narrower on a lesser ravine part, also a tear down. Funny enough, we did that house too, actually, for them. So, but that house sold less than a year later for almost $500,000 more than this one for the lot. So I was right in principle. So anyways, so we did the house, and the idea was to really create a home that's appealing, but to create a bachelor pad for him, like a show-off house for this guy. Something where when his kids are with him, they can have they love being there, but something that he can really, enjoy, but take a little bit of time off from his hard work life and actually relax in there and enjoy life a bit and enjoy his, different relationships that may come or whatever. One of the builders I worked with at the time, we were going through the different sketches, and he said, wouldn't it be cool if we could do like 2 blocks? I always thought, it was kind of not really like, are you thinking more like 2 blocks like this? And I said, yeah, what if we break them apart? And that's where we ended up. We have the wood side and we have the titanium side. But then we have the nice glass door in the middle, breaking it. And we also had the glass bridge up top, breaking it with the green roof on top. Well, we thought, okay, we want privacy in the house in front of that. So that titanium side, we put a little wing on it. We curved it a little bit. And the whole idea behind it was, if you look at the front, the photo of the front perspective, thank you. The front elevation there, as you drive, there's a bit of a tree plantation there that was already existing. And I wanted that curved titanium. When you drove up on this house, you would see the reflection, not in the mirror, but a slight reflection of, say, like the brown stems and a little bit of the greenery. But as you're driving, because of the curve, you would see it move. So it almost acts like a little bit of a camouflage for the house, but also a really cool effect. And then the idea of the wood side, and it's not real wood, it's actually metal wood that looks, it's from BN Industries. It's a metal extrusion that looks real. To me, it's the best one that I could find anyways in the market. The idea was the wood, with the trees from the ravine coming up behind it, that the wood would now it would feel like it's not camouflaging, but it feels like it's from the woods. So that was the idea behind it. So as you come up the driveway, you walk in, or you walk behind the wing, and now you have a big pivot door, and you look right through the house. There's the foyer at the front, and then there's the steps down, and it goes from 10-foot to 14-foot ceilings, and you look right through into the backyard. And that was really the idea, that it's completely private, but the house is still basically like 60% windows.
Wow.
And, on that bridge up top, so his kids can go to the wing, of the other wing of the house where their bedrooms are, we put the film on, you can flick, and the glass can go frosted. So it actually did have complete privacy, if need be, right? But then once you go in the house, you wanted to make it contemporary, but still have like the story, we had the walnut wall, we called that the Swiss Army knife, in it. It's just one unit. It's one big, 50-foot unit. And in that is, there's the stairs go in it, the office shelves go in it with all the printers and stuff like that. The wine bar goes in there, the bar goes in there, the doors leading to the basement go in there, the TV unit go in there, and the big fireplace at the end goes through it. And so that was visible through the whole space, and that's the walnut on that was the star to show. Other than that, we just tried to stay very subtle with white and natural wood on the floor. And then of course we have that big hangar door that opens up and brings the indoors out. As you can see, there's a nice little pool in the backyard there, and it's just set up for a real party back there, but also for kids to enjoy it and so on and so forth. Now, the best part about it was we were halfway through framing, and he basically told me that he's getting married again. And now the family is going to be, between his kids and her kids, it's going to be 5 kids. So we had to rethink it now. All of her kids were sub-teenagers still. So we had to rethink it. So for example, at the front foyer where it was all white panel, we had to readjust. We readjusted just a little bit in depth. Not that it would do anything to the look or the aesthetic of the house, but now each of those panels at the front could open up, and each kid has their own cubby where they can put their coat and their basketball or their shoes and so on and so forth, rather than having to go to the cupboard where everybody shares right by the powder room, right? So we had to do a few things in the basement. We turned it into kids central down there, and but for the most part, we were able to keep it pretty true to what is. Does that answer enough on the concept there, or any other ones you want to go into? And if there's anything else you have in mind about it, I'm happy to do it. I just like to start with that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It sounds like it was very thoughtfully done, and it's interesting to hear that you had to pivot sort of partway through as well, and still were able to make it work ideally for the customer. So that's pretty cool, man. Good for you.
Yeah, no, a very cool house, and yeah, like the scale of it is just right. The other thing too, you know, we talk about pivot. When the HVAC was getting done in this house, the HVAC guys stopped working at one point, and they said it's wrong. You know, what are you talking about? He goes, you need 3 systems in here. We had 2, and we're like, no. We had the best HVAC guy, well, one of the best HVAC designers do the house, and they said, no, you got to call him. And he came, and he stood in his space, and he looked at us, and he goes, on paper, it made sense, but when you actually stand in the scale of this with this much glass, he goes, sometimes you just don't see it. And he goes, they're absolutely right. So they had to put on like a 3rd HVAC system, so we did lose a little height in a few corridors in the basement. But I mean, you know, there's always things that you have to, you know, it's construction, human error, you know, things don't work out the way they are supposed to. So there's a little bit of pivoting here and there. As long as you can keep true to what you're doing, you know, and not butcher everything, I guess it's okay, right?
Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. Couple other questions. We have about 10 minutes left here, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet if that's okay.
Yeah.
How do you collaborate with your clients to achieve a design that truly reflects their lifestyle and their needs?
Yeah, we really we question, you know, so when we start out with a client, it's first, we don't want to work with every client sometimes, and that's not a negative thing, just sometimes you can feel that it's not a good match, right? It has to be a fun experience, and you know, the amount of money they're spending on a job, it gets very stressful really fast. So our process is always, we ask for a wish list that's joined by the couple, if it's a couple. But then I ask for a mood board from each of them. And I always ask them, do it separately, please. I got that. I had a couple that a number of years ago, and I actually quite liked them, to be completely honest. And they were fire. And they were like fiery, like personalities. And they would have like yelling arguments in our office over the thing there. And it was like, so I kind of learned at that point, okay, I got to figure out really quickly how to really hone in on what each one wants and work towards that. So that's really where it starts from, just really the wish list and the mood board. And then some clients, and that's kind of, then we take it from there. And then we do our presentations and, you know, show them stuff. And some clients, they really are just like, you know, we trust you, they like seeing the presentation and they're pretty easygoing, and some are much more hands-on. And it all varies, and then there's anywhere in between.
Cool. That's awesome. I love that. I love the way that you get both of their perspectives, because maybe they don't even know that they both have different perspectives, and then they collaborate and you kind of bring those 2 wish lists together. And I think that's what makes the dream come true. That's amazing.
But you have to, right? You don't want it to be, you know, how do you make both people feel like, you know, everybody in the household feel like this house is them, right? You can't do it like, you don't want to go through this process and it feels like, well, this is all you, and then the other person's in the basement bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, it's not right. Like, we've got to really hold in on that and focus on that.
Yeah, I love it. You mentioned that old European architecture inspires you. How do you blend kind of historical influences, if you will, with more of the modern trends of today's construction?
Well, you know, I love the idea of the modern, today, open concept, and I still love the idea of modern design, modern architecture. But there is something like when you go and you look at, you know, these old buildings and the detail and how it's, you know, open spaces and focal points of what they're looking at a lot of times, and even just the detail of it. I love when I get an opportunity to work on a heritage home and put an adaptive reuse on the space. And really, you know, my favorite thing always on that is when there's a few old things in there, or even if there isn't, we'll find something and make it look like we get to refinish it and retreat it and bring it in. You know, in some of our projects, you'll see those old, like the old fireplaces. They look like brand new. They're black and brass or chromed or something, like just refinishing things. We have a project right now, we're just in the closet, or the large mudroom. We've done 4 panels, and we did the British style center knob. And I was, you know, you always you're always given what you need. And I was lucky enough to find one set of 4. They were all rusty. I ordered them for £39 from the UK, and we're going to retreat them. And right now, they're going to go not the traditional end of the door. They're going to go right in the middle of each door, just like the British style doors, and they're completely going to be brassed and black, finished. There's just exciting points of, when you get to bring that little heritage portion into it. That is a heritage home as well, which we're doing that for. So that we're bringing to a contemporary level, but again, bringing it from the heritage facade and bringing these little features in. And even if it's not heritage, just bringing these little features in of, because I think the craftsmanship and the quality and the details of the older you get, I just think it's the better it is.
100%. Yeah, I love that. I can't wait to see that design when it's done, man. That'll be super exciting. I can envision it kind of, but I think that when you put your touch on it, it's going to be incredible. So,
fingers crossed.
Awesome. So, with smart home technology becoming more prevalent, how do you integrate tech while maintaining a timeless aesthetic in your designs?
Yeah, listen. I'm the worst technology guy, to be completely honest with you.
Sure.
But we do need everything in it. We do need everything in the home. But I have, so I always, when it comes to it, I always have, whether it's a development project or whether it's a client project, we always have the experts in that. And in smart homes technology, there's so many different things nowadays that can appeal to different people. Like that, some people spend 6 figures on doing the whole 9 yards of their home. Some people just want the basic little things that they can lock their doors and the phone and have an option that they can add to it later. So I really just bring them to the experts and allow the experts to kind of talk with them, and show them all the gadgets. I might be a little better than I'm leading on to, but I definitely don't feel like I'm the best guy ever to lead the people to say, oh, you should do this or do that, right? The only thing I'm saying is, yeah, we should have automatic blinds because it's 14-foot ceilings. That's a long cord to pull.
Totally. No, that's awesome. I love that. So that kind of brings me to the end of the questions that I think we'll cover today. But if people want to get a hold of you, want to kind of see your designs, etc., what's the best way for people to reach out?
Oh, just look us up on the web or on ancerlstudio.com or Instagram. We're pretty good at posting. We're always showing our work and our installs. We have in the coming weeks, we have a pretty cool loft that we're going to be showing as we're setting up. And in about 4 weeks, we have you mentioned Waxwing. Waxwing, I consider one of our super houses. We have our next super house. We're going to be photographing on the 15th of October. So we'll be doing little stories on Instagram as we do that prior to us releasing it. So try to just always engage and educate if you can.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for your time today. Nicholas Ancerl with Ancerl Studios. We really appreciate your help and wish you all the best with your new and upcoming projects.
Thank you for your time.